Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, world. Welcome once again to Tuesday Talk with Key West Lou. I am your host, Louis Patron. This has been a hell of a week. So many interesting things happening, some of them shaking events. I'm going to devote this week's show strictly to police problems because of Ferguson. However, before I get into the police situations, I want to briefly comment on Donald Trump. Now, I have not been impressed with Donald Trump. I still think he's a bit of a buffoon. I question his capacity to be president. He's a great entertainer, et cetera, but something happened in the last several days, which I do want to comment on. The debates occurred. Megyn Kelly went after Donald Trump. He gave it back to her, and then the next day he made some nasty comments about the female situation where the women have a period once a month. My terminology, not his. Mine is better than his, I think. In any event, I thought it was stupid what he said, and then he denies he said it that way. He didn't mean it. The guy's full of it. He's full of shit, with all due respect. I'm going to say it that way. What bothers me, though, and this is something we got to keep our eyes open to and recognize, he gets on the telephone. Roger Ailes, who owns Fox News, calls up Trump, as it goes, the next day, and these two guys make peace, which is not uncommon. Big guys take care of each other. We have to watch out for this. Big guys take care of each other. And what did Roger Ailes do? He threw Megyn Kelly under the bus. I couldn't believe it. He threw her under the bus. So Ailes and Fox and Trump are all buddy-buddy again, and there she is out in left field. Watch out for this guy. I don't think he's healthy for this country. I know he's great entertainment. He makes me laugh. He's leading in the polls. It will be a bad situation for our country if he gets the nomination, I believe. Now, let's get into the police situation. And the reason I want to talk about police is because of Ferguson. Ferguson, Missouri happened 1 year ago Sunday, this past Sunday. Michael Brown was shot and killed by a police officer, Darren Wilson. So now come Sunday, and of course protesters and demonstrators come from all over the country, and they're having a demonstration saying, we've got to take care of this police black problem. Sufficient steps have not been taken, et cetera, et cetera. Well, things got out of hand, as you would expect. In fact, I think this whole St. Louis area must be crazy, because I'm going to go through the scenario as it occurred. The county executive, when another fellow got shot, another black man got shot. His name's Tyrone Harris. And when he got shot, the county executive said, state of emergency, and this was immediately after Harris got shot. And the reason he did that was this takes the Ferguson police out of the situation, turns authority over to the county sheriff, who has available to him 800 men, all right? He has a bigger force, et cetera, purportedly more experience. So he's got 800 men available. Now, here's what happened. Let's go through the shooting that occurred either late Sunday night or early Monday morning. There were 4 plainclothes detectives in an unmarked SUV. 4 plainclothes detectives, unmarked SUV. Tyrone Harris is an 18-year-old black. All right? Important to note, no body cameras on the 4 plainclothes police officers. When the sheriff was asked why no body cameras, he says, I got 800 men. I only had money enough for 70. Nobody gave me any more money. That's all I could buy. I can't put them on plainclothes detectives. So there's no body cameras involved that were on the police officers. Okay, we get to there. Now, here's how the facts fall out. Harris is critical. Major surgery, may make it, may not make it. They've already charged him. The police have charged this fellow Harris, this 18-year-old. They've charged him with assault on police and shooting at a motor vehicle. here's what occurred. I know I keep going that way, but there's a lot of nitty-gritty you got to get in here. 2 black men were shooting at each other, okay? The police say they pulled up in the SUV, the 4 plainclothes detectives. They claim Harris shot at the SUV. The cops got out of the SUV, and they chased Harris. All right? That's the scenario so far. The police, it is said, it is reported, unloaded 40 rounds at Harris. His body took, and the number isn't certain yet, somewhere between 8 and 12 bullets. No further shots were ever made by Harris, if he even did make that one shot at the SUV. But he took 8 to 12 bullets in his back, and he has to go to the hospital right away. This guy's bad shape. Now, the witnesses initially said Harris had no gun. And that's interesting because just about an hour ago on TV, the sheriff of the county released a video which a storekeeper had from, security on his store and the outside of his store, and it shows Harris at some point before this situation occurred, or maybe at the beginning of it, running with a gun in his hand. Everybody's scurrying around. Now, did this happen? Was he running to shoot at the SUV then? Was this sometime before? I don't know. The witnesses say that he never shot at the van, that it was the detectives got out and started running after him and shooting at him. In any event, 40 rounds were shot, 8 to 12 bullets in the kid. He may die. That's the scenario, okay? Keep that in mind. We have to put it on the side for a moment. Now, the federal government gave 4 Humvees to Ferguson last year. They asked for 2 of them to be given back. They still have it. I'm just sharing information with you. It all comes together. Sunday evening, 4 Humvees were on the streets of Ferguson. Not 2 because they didn't give the other 2 back. So all 4 were out there, okay, when Harris, 18 years old, was shot. There was also on the streets that night, as part of the demonstration, a citizens military group. These have been referred to as by the police, as vigilantes. The group is a not-for-profit organization organized under the laws of Nevada. This group consists of current and former United States military and law enforcement personnel. Current and former U.S. military and law enforcement personnel. Their avowed purpose: to disobey any order they believe violates the Constitution. Now, you have to understand, these guys are on the streets of Ferguson Sunday night. They are in military fatigue clothes. They are carrying weapons. Each one of them had some kind of a gun, the best guns available. There were a large number of them. I don't know the exact number. My concern, we're going to start with this concern. The police officers, the sheriff's deputies on duty, never stopped them or took their guns away from them. They said, "What are you doing here?" They said, "We have a right to be here. We have a right to carry these guns. We're here to protect persons and property." The cops didn't know what to do, and they called upstairs. They called to the chief, to the sheriff, to the county attorney. Tell us what to do. Do these guys have a constitutional right to be here, dressed as they are, and marching around and infiltrating everything? Can we take the guns away from them? Can we arrest them? Is this freedom of speech on their part? Do they have constitutional rights here? And nobody made a judgment. Nobody did anything. They let these guys continue walking around. They should have been arrested on the spot, and then worry if the charges hold up later on. Anyhow, this group, I want to stay with this group. They're called Oath Keepers, O-A-T-H, Oath Keepers, formed in 2009 by Stuart Rhodes. Stuart Rhodes, still around. He's a Yale law grad. He's a former United States paratrooper, and he's a former staffer to Congressman Ron Paul. There are now several chapters of Oath Keepers throughout the United States. The Oath Keepers believe that the greatest threat to our country is not terrorism or terrorists. They believe it is the federal government. The federal government. Well, they believe also that America's being lost because of the way our government is functioning today. So they were in Ferguson to do something, allegedly to protect people and property. And again, they walked amongst the protesters. They walked amongst the police. The police did not stop them. No instructions received. And in the meantime, this group of paramilitary people are shouting, "We are at war," quote unquote, "we are at war," all right? Well, we are at war. I don't know. I don't know. We're going to be at war. It gets better. It gets better. I know I'm going a little slowly here, only because there's so many facts I want to throw out at you people. This kid Harris gets shot, 8 to 12 bullets in him. Did he or did he not shoot a gun at the SUV? Was it necessary to use that much force to bring him down? He's running away from them. All the bullets are in his back. And then you got this paramilitary group, the Oath Keepers around, and now it gets better. And this is the best of the best, what I'm going to share with you now, the best of the worst, actually. And it is this. Sunday was the first anniversary again of Michael Brown's death. He was shot last year, 1 year ago Sunday, by Officer Darren Wilson. Well, the purpose of the demonstration Sunday in Ferguson were to commemorate Brown's death. However, a nearby police department, the Columbia, Missouri Police Officers Union, which is a PBA organization, placed on Facebook on Sunday that the day should be commemorated officially by renaming it, wait till you hear this, Darrell Wilson Day. Can you imagine the brass testicles this department has? They want to call it the Darrell Wilson Day. They put it on Facebook on Sunday. Darrell Wilson's the police officer who shot Michael Brown. It's pouring fuel on the fire. They're looking for trouble. Police officers are looking for trouble. Well, that's the story of what's going on there. We're going to hear more about this paramilitary group, Oath Keepers. They're not the only ones in this country. There's several that have been formed in the last couple of years. I remember 3 years ago I did a TV show on this on some group out of California who did the same thing, and they're still organized. This is even though it was formed in 2009, it really got active this past spring, the Oath Keepers here. So that's a bad deal. Something bad's going to happen there. This Tyrone Harris story is going to be interesting as it develops. I want to make another comment about this. 800 policemen on the force, only 70 body cameras. Now, the problem started with Michael Brown, or we became aware of it 1 year ago Sunday. We were told everybody's going to have body cameras. First thing we're going to do. And I assume the federal government provided money for the departments to buy body cameras. Whatever the system was, obviously, it didn't work, and no one in authority, whoever that may be, paid attention. When after a whole year, all you've got is 70 body cameras for 800 men. Now, a lot of other things happened this past week involving policemen, and I'm going to go through these little things that occurred to show you the situation is becoming worse. It's becoming very sad. It is becoming extremely scary. We're going to go to Seneca, South Carolina on July 26th. A 19-year-old, by the way, this is a black boy, not a white. This is a white boy, not a black boy. We're going to talk about a white boy. 19-year-old white boy in a car in a Hardee's fast food parking lot with his girlfriend. They're smoking a joint. All right? A police officer, a lieutenant, was conducting a drug investigation, he says, and he went towards the car when he saw them smoking the joint, and he had his gun drawn. Okay, he had his gun drawn. They're smoking a joint in the car. He's got his gun drawn. And this is the policeman's version. He says that Hammond, who's the young man, his name's Zach Hammond, Hammond started the car up and drove it towards him as if to run him over. And he happened fortuitously to step aside, so the car only brushed by him, and when it went by, he got 2 bullets off, 2 shots off, and he hit Hammond in the chest and in the neck, and Hammond died instantly. There was an autopsy, and the autopsy says the bullets are to the front of his body, the chest and the neck. The family didn't buy the situation. They had a second autopsy, an independent one. And guess what the second autopsy reported? Hammond was shot in the back both times. Hammond was shot in the back, not in the front, as the police officer said. And there were witnesses. This is a parking lot of a fast food place. There were other people sitting there who saw this event occur, and they said the car never moved. This kid never drove this car to run over this police officer. In addition, to make it better, on the police car, which was parked in such a fashion, even though it wasn't in use in this whole thing, that it could take a video of what was going on, there was a police dashboard camera. It did film this situation, and it's available, but the police will not release it. This was July 26th. This thing occurred. Today's, August 11th? We're almost 3 weeks post-incident, and they won't release it because it's part of the investigation. Probably, I'm assuming, because it tells a story that it wasn't the way the police officer said. Then we go to Santa Ana, California. This is beautiful. Santa Ana, California. This is what's happening with the policemen and what they're doing to our public in our country today. We're in Santa Ana, California. There was a marijuana dispensary. Medical marijuana is legal in California, called Sky High Holistic. Nice name, Sky High Holistic. Now, Santa Ana did not like, the mayor and the consul, etc., did not like the fact that pot was now legal for medicinal purposes in California, so they passed a local law making it very difficult for these stores to operate. They provided for 20 permits, which mean only 20 stores could be open, and they had a lottery to see who would get the permits. Now, understand, they did this after maybe 30 or 40 businesses had already opened. They didn't wait to say, here, we're going to do it this way. They did it after the stores were open. And at least Sky High Holistics was open before the reg was passed, and 3 others, because there are 4 different lawsuits going on now as a result of what I am telling you about in part. The only information from the city to the Sky High Holistic group was in May. The raid was in May. There was a cease and desist order sent to them in February. 3 months later in May, the police officers made a raid. They raided this medical marijuana place. Did not have a permit. Understand that. They had been operating before the reg. They were operating after the reg. They had a lawsuit pending to decide, because it was claimed by the 4 groups who have different lawsuits that there was a lot of shenanigans going on, something stunk in Denmark. There were payoffs. There were parties, et cetera, to influence who got the permits, and it was not a legitimate lottery. This is at the crux of everything that is going on. So, the police officers have a raid on the marijuana dispensary store. Now, this is humorous. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. They crashed through the door. How dramatic, huh? And they arrested everybody in the place. One of them was a woman who worked there in a wheelchair. Now they're alone. Except for policemen, no one else is in the room, in the store. It's a big store proper. It's a huge room. They went around. There were a lot of cameras on the ceilings and on the walls, and they destroyed each camera. They were hitting them with the butts of their rifles, with sticks. They broke each camera. However, whoever broke a particular one didn't do a good job, and there was still one video camera functioning, but they didn't know. Guess what they did? They started eating all the goodies. They were eating the brownies with pot. They were smoking joints. This is all on the video. They're eating the candy containing the pot. And eventually they're stoned. They're all stoned on the video. And they're stuffing their pockets with this stuff to take it home. They're supposed to confiscate it, at least if they do their procedures properly, and bring it to the station. And you could hear them talking. And this woman in the wheelchair, they were talking bad about her. Like we could have taken her chair away. She would have had to crawl out. We should have broke one of her legs. These were not nice guys. I know they're stoned, but they ate all this stuff that was now contraband, bad stuff. They ate the brownies, the candies, and smoked the joints, and it's all on the video. Would you believe? Don't know what happened yet. This has all happened recently, and everything is still pending. I can't believe they don't get their asses fired. They should get their asses fired. Which brings me now to Rohnert, R-O-H-N-E-R-T, Park, California. Don McCummins lives in a lovely home. This is a beautiful neighborhood on a cul-de-sac. He's on his own driveway, and he's hitching his boat to the trailer. A police officer by the name of David Rodriguez starts driving in a circular fashion around the cul-de-sac, staring at him all the time. And at some point, he pulls his car sideways in the road so it's facing directly into McCummins' driveway and the boat and the trailer, etc. McCummins don't know what the hell's happening. He takes his cell phone out and starts videoing the police car and any conversations that are going to follow. The police officer gets out immediately out of the car and pulls his gun. He pulls his gun. He tells McCummins to take his hand out of his pocket. He had one hand in his pocket. Probably was going to say he was carrying a gun. The police officer was going to say that about Citizen McCummins. McCummins says, no way, no way. I'm not going to put the camera down. He wanted to put the camera down too, turn it off. He says, I don't know what you're doing, but you're harassing me. I did nothing wrong, and again, you are harassing me. And he tells the police officer, I suggest you put the gun down. The police officer moves closer and now points the gun at his head. Wowee! We read about these things. Finally, the police officer stopped because McCummins wasn't going to give in. He wasn't going to give in. He had it all recorded. Even if he got shot, he's got it all recorded. Finally, the police officer puts his gun away and takes out his cell phone and takes a picture of McCummins. And he says, if you can take a picture of me, I can take a picture of you. And why don't you take the pictures of me, the recording you made of me in this conversation, and run it on YouTube? And guess what? McCummins did. And hundreds of thousands of people have viewed it on YouTube. Don't know yet what happened to the police officer. Another situation occurred. Alexander, Alabama. Police officer. His name's Troy Middlebrook. Nice name, Troy Middlebrook. He's a police officer. He didn't like a black man by the name of Vincent Bias. He had arrested him a couple of times before. The guy got out of jail. He referred to him. He had a conversation with someone, was not aware this person was recording the conversation, referred to Bias as a nigger, with all due respect. I apologize, but that's on the recording. Talked about the drug arrest and how the guy got out, and he says, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to blow his brains out. I'm going to set up a routine traffic stop and kill him. Interesting. Well, this is funny. It's not funny. It's sad. The city paid $35,000 to Bias because of what this police officer said. Okay? He threatened a citizen, even though not to his face, and it seemed convincingly. The mayor and the chief became aware. Bias went to an attorney, became aware of what was going on. And they sat down and immediately made a settlement with Bias of $35,000. $35,000. The problem is they never went before their common council as is traditionally done to get approval. The police officer's still on the job. There is a state police group unit that investigates any local police problem. They were never notified. It's apparent the mayor and the chief wanted to keep this thing quiet, and the cop's still on the job. But it got out, and they didn't pay $35,000 for nothing. So here's another situation involving a police officer. There's got to be a solution to all this. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. But I've got a solution. You can't rely on just a suggested solution. You can't rely on local police enforcement to police themselves. They're contaminated from the top down. You can't rely on the state to do the job, and the reason is I once represented 55,000 full-time civil service police officers in the state of New York for 3 years. I was general counsel to the Police Conference of New York. I had an office in Albany. I was a registered lobbyist for the organization, as were the officers of my group. And I will tell you, police and fire have great influence in the halls of state legislatures. So the job has to be done at the federal end, I believe, through the Attorney General, setting up a separate unit and setting up steps that have to be taken and how police departments have to operate when various things happen. Otherwise, this stuff's going to go on. I mean, this is like the edge of a revolution when crap like this goes on. The black people aren't going to take this for long in this country, and nor are the white people. We're going to have trouble, and now you got these military groups on the street. Who knows what's going to happen? And it's got to be stopped, but it can only be stopped from the very top, our federal government down. That is the show for this week. I thank you for joining me. The show is archived, as you know, on Blog Talk Radio and on YouTube. You catch it there late, some of you people, on another day. It's also linked to my Key West Lou website, keywestlou.com. It's linked to my Key West Lou website as of Thursday morning. That's Wednesday morning, rather. That is tomorrow morning. Once again, I thank you for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the show, a little bit different, all police. And I'll be back with you next week. Good night.